Hey everyone, my name is Ocean, and today I'll be going over what I believe are the most essential traits you should be using in Hunt Showdown. I'll be splitting the traits into segments and discussing which traits you should prioritize for different situations and different ways you play. Essentially, I just want to discuss the overall usefulness of the traits and maybe get you thinking about how they can be applied to actual in-game scenarios. Also, if you guys enjoyed the video, remember to like and subscribe. Anyways, let's get into what traits you should prioritize in Hunt Showdown. Now, the traits you should be using when playing in duos or trios should specifically cater to making it easier for you to succeed as a team. Of course, all traits can benefit team play, but that depends solely on the skill of you and your team. The first trait I'd recommend using for duos or trios is Beast Face. This trait will reduce the reaction range of animals like birds, dogs, and horses. Beast Face, I believe, is a big deal especially for teams, as it can be incredibly easy to set off these sound trap animals, giving away your position, which could lead you to getting ambushed. Sound is one of the biggest elements in Hunt Showdown, and learning to navigate without making too much noise can determine if your team wins or loses. And with Beast Face, it'll make it just that much easier for you and your team to avoid setting off these sound traps. The next trait you and all your teammates should equip is Resilience. This trait allows you to get revived with an instant 100 health, compared to having almost no health when being revived without this trait. Yes, ideally you don't want anyone to get down in your team, but if they do, then you can think of this as a kind of life insurance. It will give the revived player more of a chance at surviving and getting to cover and healing to max health. I'm sure there have been situations where a teammate is downed in a questionable spot, like near a concertina or in a semi-exposed area, and with Resilience it could theoretically, depending on the enemy weapon of course, allow your teammate to get hit after being revived and not be downed instantly. Moving on to the traits you should prioritize when playing solo in Bounty Hunt. When playing solo, I believe stealth and speed to be the biggest factor in determining your success. The first trait I would highly recommend is the Greyhound trait. This trait essentially allows you to sprint at full speed for a longer duration. With Greyhound, you will gain the ability to reposition faster. And when playing solo, quickness is without a doubt the key to your survival. Another trait that pairs well with Greyhound would be the Silent Killer trait. In Hunt Showdown, there are zombies everywhere, and if you are wanting to remain undetected from other players, taking out these zombies silently is the way to do it. With the Silent Killer trait, it essentially reduces the sound you make when performing melee attacks. I feel most people run knives, but not everyone runs silenced weapons, so this trait will make taking out zombies more stealthy while not having to equip silent weapons to take them out. Now, I've already mentioned Beast Face, but this trait is also incredibly useful for playing solo. Keeping your position unknown to enemies in Hunt Showdown is literally everything. Now, the last trait you should prioritize when playing solo is called Light Foot. Light Foot will enable you to vault, jump, fall, and climb ladders silently. This trait isn't the most flashy one, but as I've mentioned before, playing stealthy and as quiet as possible will give you the biggest advantage in this game. Next, I want to talk about the traits to prioritize that are specific to your chosen loadouts. If you use the Spectre shotgun, the Mosin rifle, the Lebel rifle, the Bornheim pistol, or the Dolch pistol, then you should definitely use the Bullet Grubber trait. This trait will help you recover the unfired round normally lost when performing a partial reload of any of these weapons. If you use any of these weapons and their corresponding variants, then the Bullet Grubber trait is definitely a trait to prioritize over others. The next trait applies to using single action pistols. If you want to gain the ability to rapid hip fire these pistols, you are going to want to use the Fanning trait. The Fanning trait is good for suppressive fire and really only effective in close quarters engagements, as the Fanning trait reduces overall accuracy at range. This is just an overall solid trait to have equipped when using single action pistols. Speaking of being able to rapid fire weapons comes the recently added Levering perk. Levering allows for a faster rate of fire from the hip when using lever action rifles. I believe this trait only applies to the Winfield currently, but that could change in the future with new weapons being added. Now, I have never been a fan of the Winfield. While I feel it's a really good option for PvE, I believe it shouldn't be your weapon of choice in PvP fights. But with the introduction of this Levering perk, I believe it can make the Winfield a more dynamic weapon in both PvE and PvP fights. If you enjoy the Winfield, then without a doubt you need to put the Levering trait into use. Another trait that is specific to your loadout is the Bolt Thrower trait. Equipping this trait will reduce the reload time for crossbows. If you're a crossbow fan, then this trait should always be prioritized when you're running the crossbow. Also, Bolt Seer is a good trait to use with crossbows, as it will allow you to see your crossbow bolts on the ground easier. I want to touch on some general traits that will overall improve your quality of life in-game, or essentially traits that will make it easier for you in the bayou. The first trait I want to discuss is the newly added Serpent trait. This trait allows you to use Dark Sight to interact with nearby clues, rifts, and abandoned bounties. This is an incredible trait as it allows you to investigate clues from a safe distance. I cannot express to you how many times I've wanted to get a clue and there has been a meathead or a pack of hellhounds nearby, and it was impossible to get that clue without triggering a bunch of PvE. This is a solid trait to consider using to improve your overall gameplay experience in Hunt Showdown. The next traits I'd recommend is actually a combination of 3 traits that all accomplish the same thing. Those traits are Bloodless, Salve Skin, and Mithridatus. The Bloodless trait will prevent you from bleeding out faster, as it will overall slow the rate of bleeding damage from any number of sources. Salve Skin is basically equivalent to Bloodless as it reduces the burn damage rate by 25%. All 3 of these traits, I believe, greatly makes it easier to recover from PvE attacks and burning and bleeding effects that can be brought on by a variety of different methods. These quality of life traits are definitely not necessary to succeed, but just overall give you an easier time in Hunt Showdown, given that this game is really unforgiving sometimes. So if you struggle with PvE and get frustrated easily, these traits may give you some relief. Now, I'm sure you all love a good troll in Hunt Showdown, and there are many ways to troll in this game, but I want to talk about the traits that are kind of trolly in nature. I haven't encountered anyone using these traits yet, but I believe they are traits that can create some pretty funny moments for sure. The first trait is called Dauntless. This trait allows you to defuse explosives that are thrown at you. Actually attempting to use this trait is extremely risky. To even attempt to defuse an explosive thrown at you is a death wish. I also feel that most people cook their explosives before throwing them, so you would have a hard time even getting close to the explosive before it goes off, much less actually having time to defuse it. If you guys ever use this trait and actually succeed at defusing, or see any clips of someone pulling this off, definitely send me the links to those clips. The second trait that is troll-worthy is the Tomahawk trait. This trait allows you to throw hammers, axes, shovels, and pitchforks in-game. I personally haven't used this trait before, but it seems like it would definitely have the potential to get some funny kills on other hunters. Let me know what your experience has been with these 2 traits down in the comments. That's all I got for you guys today. Thank you so much for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe. Over the past few weeks, this channel has grown so much, and I appreciate every single one of you. Also, I have a random question for all of you. Would you want to see more gameplay videos or more guide videos on my channel? Or an overall mix between the 2? Let me know down in the comments. Thanks again everyone, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.